Etapu, Namaste, Harun Nefer. This is Kasankma Keperu with a. In this video, I want to talk about an amazing experience I had earlier today. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this channel. And if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. Also, we have some free ebooks. If you're looking to get more information on my spiritual teachings, you can click on the links below and download those ebooks right away and start reading. Also, if you're not already a member of Patreon, a Patreon supporter, you should consider doing so. You can do so for as little as $1 or $20 per month. You can cancel at any time, and your support gets you exclusive access to instructional videos on the esoteric, which talks about proper way of meditating, hypnosis videos, qigong videos, oracle videos, and much more. So I want to welcome the Magi's into the chat. I see you piling in here. And I want to talk about something that is just, I can't even put it into words. And I can't even figure how I'm going to say this to you without sounding far out there. But let me go back a number of years to an experience I had, and I'm going to need you to understand how that ties back into this experience. I remember when this is years ago when YouTube was taking off, when the internet was taking off, I would watch these videos by noted UFOologists or UFO experts, and there's a community of them that belong to something called MUFON. One of the premier UFO researchers was a man named Stephen Greer. And I was not always in agreement with him and never a big fan of his, but he did say one thing that was 100% accurate. He says there are two types of UFOs that you could possibly see or encounter. The first one is a mechanical flying object that's usually a black ops project that has been built by the government. And it's being tested. And you'll see a lot of this stuff if you go to Area 51 at a certain time of night. You'll see them testing these cutting edge vehicles flying in the air. You may see them and think they are UFOs, which they are, unidentified flying objects. And he talked about the different companies that have a military contract that are actually paid to build these advanced flying machines. And he named them specifically, and it's not really pertinent to this discussion, so I'm not going to get into the various different companies that build these flying crafts. Then the other thing he talked about was a legitimate UFO. And he says, you'll know it's a real UFO because when you look at it, you will sense, and here's a key word, you will sense consciousness. So I never really understood what he meant by that or really got it until a number of years after that. I was in New York crossing a bridge in a car. And for some strange reason, I happened to look up into the sky. And I think it was because I think other people were looking up as well. So it caught my eye when I looked up in the sky. It was an object that was very light colored, and it was just hovering up there. And what really shocked me about it, of course, it was making no sound whatsoever. But the really shocking thing about it was when I noticed it, I could swear it was noticing me. And what I was sensing was a consciousness. I was saying, whatever that is, it's alive. It's some type of sentient being because it knows I'm looking at it. It's aware that I'm aware of it. So much so that when I looked at it, it then ducked behind a cloud to hide. And I was just like, wow, what was that? What was that? So that was the extent of it. And I said, well, that was a UFO. And since then, I have had other encounters with UFOs. But with Bashar, if you know anything about Bashar, he channels, he's a channeler. What he talks about was that extraterrestrials place their consciousness in the craft. That's how the craft travels. I'm not sure I buy into that. I think that the extraterrestrials actually project their consciousness to different planets, and that's how they actually travel and visit. Now, along came another researcher who was doing the research into what they call as the Mothman Chronicles. In I think it was in West Virginia, they were reporting these sights of a large bird figure they called Mothman. And the researcher, I forgot his name, um, talked about seeing these orbs of light and that they had consciousness. And in his report, he had theorized that these were natural sentient beings that probably were here before we were on this planet. He thinks they are natural to the planet and not to be feared. And if you read the Mothman Chronicles, especially with this researcher, it's very fascinating if you read it because he does a lot of research, and it's not only about the Mothman, um, but it's also about strange other things that went on in West Virginia, like, for example, the Men in Black and things of that nature. Now, the Mothman um, Chronicles was made into, his book was actually made into a movie with Richard Gere. And I liked the movie. It wasn't anything big. It was a little bit eerie, but it was kind of cool. Let me show you a little, see if I can get you a little clip of the movie so you can see um, what I'm talking about in terms of the Mothman Chronicles. Oh, the Mothman Prophecies. I'm sorry. And Prophecies.
Hey, I told her to watch. Who? Peter's friend, Gwen. She's gonna be there tonight.
Look, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make that one tonight.
Come on, you can't keep blowing this thing off.
I'm not blowing it off. I got an interview to do with the governor. I gotta be in Richmond, 8 o'clock in the morning. So.
Almost forgot. McCallum's office called and they bumped the meeting till tomorrow night.
Eddie, look,
She's not married. Not by a mile. But you know what? No one ever will be.
Okay, that was not a very good scene. So hold on 1 second there. Let me try and key up a better scene because that
in 1966,
here we go.
The residents of a small town in West Virginia were stalked by an unknown creature with glowing red eyes. Was he real or just a figment of the imagination? And does recent photographic evidence suggest he may have returned? This week on Bedtime Stories, we retell the legend of the Mothman.
All right, now, so let's go back to what I was saying before. Now, the researcher who was doing the research into the Mothman, his name was John Keel. All right, and there's a lot of things he uncovered, not just about the Mothman. Like I said, this led to the Men in Black and a lot of other things. But just going back to the point I want to make was about the glowing orbs, which he said were a natural part of this planet. So I don't think he was correct in that assertion as well. So here's what happened today that really just, it's undescribable. So very, very tough day today. Um, I have a client that I'm editing a video for. The client wants changes, edits, and then I'm trying to take my little girl to Disneyland, and she really wants to go, and we're trying to make that trip happen. So her mother's calling me on the phone, and she's like, "You got to find a good hotel." And then the client is calling me on the phone, the producer's calling me on the phone, and just a lot of things going back and forth, and a lot of like stress. So prior to that, I was taking my herbs again, and the herbs, these are the herbs that I would use to really just relax and things of that nature. But they stay in your body for a couple of days. So I went to get some food for lunch, and I stopped to get gas. And as I was pumping the gas, I just stood there and looked up into the sky. And I was thinking about those UFO crafts and wondered what they would look like. Now, as I was thinking, I felt myself kind of drifting off. Standing there pumping gas, I actually felt myself kind of drifting off. And then, normally if you feel you're daydreaming or you're falling asleep, you compose yourself, right? But there was a voice that then came into my head and said, push it further, push it further. And I was like, okay. And I'm still in this like lackadaisical state, drifting off. So I went deeper and deeper and deeper. And then suddenly I felt my consciousness separate from my body. And at that point, I went deep into space, deep into space in an instant. And then before I knew it, I woke in a craft, a spacecraft. And I'm looking around and I'm going, this is no craft that our government would make. So I go into one of the rooms and I see there was a seat there and there's buttons there, and I'm exploring. And I'm like, holy shit. Then suddenly, while I'm pumping the gas, a ding goes off because it stops pumping because my tank is full. When the ding went off, my consciousness returned to my body, and it shook me in such a fright that I was like, what the hell? And I'm looking around to see if people are looking at me. And I was standing there in such awe and amazement. And I was like, did I just astral travel to a spacecraft in outer space? Tell me I just didn't do that. And I'm sitting there freaking out, going, holy shit. And I pick up my cell phone and I just want to call people. I was just on a craft in deep space. And then I stopped and said, that sounds so freaking crazy. Now, let me explain something to you. I know the difference between an hallucination, a dream, and reality. This was no dream. This was no hallucination. I was having an outer body experience where I was aboard a craft, and it was real. And I'm freaking out. And then as a calm comes over my body like a piece of amen, I'm about to cry. And I'm about to cry because I think we have been told a lie. We have been lied to our entire life. And I'm in awe and shock. And I'm saying, what did I just do? Do you understand that I separated my consciousness from my body? This has all kinds of implications. This means that in reality, there is no death. That at any time you can separate from the body, the physical body, the Geb. And although the Geb dies, your consciousness can go and explore different worlds. Do you understand the implication of this? And I was like, all of my life, the ruling elite, this so called fourth dimensional plane, it is all a lie. And I had to go, I drove back to the studio and sat in my car and I did a reading to confirm this with the great oracle and said, was this an hallucination? Well, I knew it wasn't because I could feel it. I knew I was in the craft. And the oracle confirmed, no, you really did travel. And then I'm like, does the world know about this? Does the world know that we can do this? That anyone can do this? Do you understand? We don't know the extent of our power. We know nothing. We know nothing about who we are. We know jack shit. You, the true essence of who you are, is an amazing being. You are amazing and you don't even realize it. Let me explain something to you. You don't know how amazing you are because you are trapped in the physical body. Sensory input, sense perception is very limited. When you can project your consciousness outward and explore the stars, that is the true essence of who you are. That is you. This is not you. There is no such thing as Kasunk. There is no such thing as Clifton. There is no such thing as Michael Osair. You are consciousness. You have the property of non-locality. That means you do not exist in any one fixed point in space and time. You exist everywhere. I was aboard a spacecraft in deep space. You cannot tell me that wasn't real. It was more real than this reality. I was walking down the hallway, turned right, went inside a room, sat in a chair with a console, and I'm looking around, fully aware that I'm consciousness. And I would have stayed there for a longer period of time if that bell didn't go off at the gas station to let me know that my tank was filled. It startled me and awoke me to where my consciousness came right back to my body. People, we don't understand what's going on. I mean, the ruling elite, the Illuminati, knows this power and they use this power. And I always had an inkling that they knew it and that they were using this, but I didn't know how powerful we are. This is something else. And, I think, and I have to apologize, I think I've insulted my ancestors because for the longest, they've always told us that they did astral projection. But you read that in the books and you just think it's just something written. But when you experience it, it blows your freaking mind. I'm just like, this is almost to the point of where it's changed my life. I'm like, I had just had the most profound experience in my life to where I involuntarily projected my consciousness into deep space to explore a spacecraft. Had no intention. My only regret is maybe I would really like to have seen the beings if they were there. This is something that my magi's, my family, we have got to start exploring the full potential of our power more. We don't know how kick ass we are. We don't know how God made us so extraordinary. I'm like on a mission now. I'm like Muhammad now. I'm like Moses who went up to the mountain and saw the burning bush. I'm seeing things totally different now. I'm like, you don't have to die. You can leave the body. And now, about a couple months ago, I was reading articles in magazines where they're experimenting with transferring your consciousness into an AI machine, artificial intelligence. See, here's the real joke of the matter. They put out the propaganda in mainstream media to make you believe that this stuff is hocus pocus, to make you laugh at it, to make you think it's sci-fi, when in reality, our government is funding these experiments and these projects. They're black ops projects. They've already admitted that they have paid certain individuals who have demonstrated the ability to astral project. They are doing experiments with them where they pay them to astral project to foreign countries to look at documents. This is true. I'm just amazed and speechless. I didn't know I had this power. I honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't know I had this power. I mean, I know I had the power, but I thought it would take a great amount of effort for me to do it. I didn't know it would be as easily as standing there by my car filling the gas up and I would just immediately do it. I thought, oh, I'm going to have to take a bunch of herbs. I'm going to have to get into a sensory deprivation chamber, and it's going to take a couple of days. And I'm like, this thing just happened. Now I'm like, I got to do it again, but I got to do it for a longer period of time. I'm like, well, do I have to stay in this body? Can I just explore the universe? Do I have to come back? There's so many questions I have. Can I stay? Can I stay out there in that form, or do I have to stay in this body? We have been fucking lied to. We have been fucking lied to by the ruling elite to believe that who we are is this is all of who we are. We are the body. We are Geb. We have been bamboozled. We are on the wrong course, people. We are on the wrong course. And I don't know what to say. And those pimp pastor ministers and those preaching it from those pulpits are going to pay a heavy price because they are agents of deception, steering us in the wrong direction. Going back to what I was saying when I was in New York and I was crossing a bridge in a car and I looked up and I saw that spacecraft and I saw consciousness. Now I understand that those extraterrestrials are projecting their consciousness and this is how they are visiting this planet. I always knew that we were consciousness, but I never in my wildest dreams would think It was so easy to do this, to project your consciousness and travel and explore. People, we gotta get straight. We gotta get straight because we gotta wake this world up. This world doesn't know what it's doing. This world is on the wrong course. People are sick and they're misled. I need you, Magi's, to go out there and start speaking this truth. Please, you've got to be my voice. You have to tell as many people as you can that we have extraordinary abilities. We've been lied to, man. We have been so lied to. All our lives, we've been lied to. We've been told to believe in Jesus and told to believe in this and that. Lo and behold, we are Jesus. We are the Jesus. We are the Muhammads. We are the Moses, and much, much more, and much more. This is life changing. People, I was aboard a spacecraft. Do you understand that? I was aboard a spacecraft in deep space. I just don't know. I don't know. It's like when you discover the truth, you don't know what to do. You're lost. You just sit there and you're saying, everything I believed has been a lie. You don't have to die. You don't have to die. I'm I for now on, I don't care who I'm talking to. I'm going to tell them you are not John, you're not Peter, you're not Sam. You are consciousness and you can leave the body whenever you want. And that this experience of being in the body is just one experience of many that you can have. It is the experience of physicality. It is the experience of 3D, but you can have a 5D experience and be free. That's true freedom. Do you understand the implications of this, people? None of you do. You don't understand. You won't understand. Do you understand the implications of this? Of people who get imprisoned, falsely imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit, and may have to do a life sentence or a 20-year sentence. You don't need to be locked in jail. You can leave your body, which is a form of a physical cell, a physical jail. This is amazing. This is amazing. I mean, I can't put into words what it felt like to be aboard that craft. I can't put into words what it's like not having a physical body. It's liberating. I want to go back, and I want to do it again, and I will do it again. And I am making a pledge on this day that I now am going to reject all belief systems of this so called reality. It is a facade. My teacher, the great king, the great Pharaoh, the great Shechem, said the only thing that's real is you, consciousness. And he was so right. He was so right. But I didn't know that I had these abilities to do these things. My Magi's, I encourage you all to take a pledge as well. Take a pledge to the spiritual path, to get on that journey of self discovery. See, our brothers and sisters, and I mean that in terms of all races, all genders, all people, think that spirituality is doing good. They think that spirituality is being at peace. No, spirituality is an awakening to your power, to an awakening of the true essence of who you are. That's spirituality. Hopefully, as I explore this power more, I will be able to write the process down and duplicate it so I can pass that information on to all of you Magi's. Because I'll be honest with you, although I knew our ancestors could do it, there was a part of me that didn't believe it. There was a part of me that didn't believe it because I was raised in a Western world where it was all about left brain ideology, believing only in the physical and what you can see, hear, feel, and taste. And I would read the accounts of our ancient ancestors traveling. But until you experience it, then you know it's real. And I'm sorry I'm using such language, but we are fucked up. The ruling elite has done such a job on us. Not only have they convinced us that we are the physical body, they've also convinced us that we are also a color. They've also convinced us that we're also a gender. This bullshit game of life needs to stop. And they need to be brought to justice. We need to take the power back from them because as long as they are in power and as long as they control the media, they will pump out their lies and disinformation. It is incumbent upon all of us to stand up and fight this system, to start this revolution, not a physical revolution, but a spiritual revolution, to change the way the world thinks, which is left brain. We've got to tell people you don't have to die. You can separate consciousness from the body. You can explore the universe in other dimensions. You can experience the true essence of who you are, which is no thingness. You are Amen. Amen is the hidden, it is the no thing. You are not one thing, hence, you are all things. You have no beginning and you have no end. You cannot die. You cannot die. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It can simply just change form. So I don't know what to say anymore. I can only just impart this bit of wisdom and this experience onto you in hopes that it will mean something to you and you'll pick up the mantle and carry on and teach your children and teach your family and teach your friends. You are not a black man. You are not a white man. You are not a white woman. You are not a black woman. You are not an Asian man. You are not an Asian woman. You are not a Latina. You are not a Latino. You are not Pakistani. You are consciousness. You are power. You are Shechem. You are Amen, the hidden. You have no form. You have no shape. You cannot be perceived. Heru, Heru El Ra. Is Amen, Amun, Amun the same? No, they're two different things. Amen is a state of peace, the hidden. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words. I'll do another broadcast. I just had to relate to you this experience of the wonder, and you just have to think how wonderful God is to create us in the manner in which He, she did, to endow us with this power. No wonder why the ruling elite doesn't want us to explore non-Western religions. Because when you do, when you start to explore those other religions, which are all based on right brain thinking, which means meditation, trance, hypnosis, astral projection, when you start to explore those, then there are two things you awaken to. Number one, your consciousness can be at all places. And number two, we are all one. There's no separation. We are all one. And that is what scares the ruling elite, the Illuminati. If the planet ever awakened to the fact that we are all one, their rule would be over because they win by convincing us of separation. Separation of church and state, separation of political parties, separation of genders, separation of race, separation of this, that, separation of subjects in the universities, that they can't find a relationship. See, in ancient Kemet, because it was right brain, whatever they studied, whatever they did, they always tried to find a relationship between things. But when you live in a left brain society, you've always tried to find a separation. How are things different? And then focus on the differences. That's not how you're supposed to live. You're not supposed to be looking at differences. You're not supposed to be um, expanding upon the differences. You're supposed to be looking at how we're all common. What are the commonalities? How are all things related? It's all an illusion. It's all Maya. And I need to let me go to the oracle and ask the oracle how my magi's should move forth from this point. because you all now have been given an incredible truth. So let's get some direction from God on how to proceed. So our question is, armed with this truth that you are truly consciousness, and that's who you are, we ask the oracle to give us advice on how we should proceed with this knowledge. Let us find out. We have the 28th hexagram changing to the 33rd hexagram. 28 changing to 33rd hexagram. Let us read the counsel on what it has to tell us. Line 2, a withered willow producing new shoots, an older man getting a woman to marry without disadvantage. Fresh impulses to a deteriorated situation. There is no disadvantage to this. An older man can have children with a younger woman. Line 6, waded too far, immersed to the top of his head, misfortune without fault. One has gotten into the dangerous situation too far and is unfortunate. It is not one's fault. Changing to the 33rd hexagram. 33rd is retreat. That is our consultation. 33rd hexagram, retreat. Withdraw. Progressing, little benefits in persisting. Withdrawing from a situation, this is progress. There is little need to keep withdrawn. Thank you. 28th hexagram is the symbol of being burdened with a lot. That's what the 28th hexagram is, being burdened with a lot. It also relates to a very extraordinary situation. Okay. So I'm going to the Wilhelm Baines version of the I Ching to read their interpretation. 28th hexagram. My, oh my. 28th hexagram. Changing first, second and sixth line changing. Second and sixth line. 28, second and sixth line. Second line. 9 in the second place means a dry popular sprouts at the root. An older man takes a young wife. Everything furthers. Wood is near water, hence the image of an old poplar sprouting at the root. This means an extraordinary reanimation of the process of growth. In the same way, an extraordinary situation arises when an older man marries a young girl who suits him. Despite the unusualness of the situation, all goes well. This is an analogy to an older man taking a younger wife. It's a very unusual situation. From the point of view of politics, the meaning is that in exceptional times, one does well to join with the lowly, for this affords a possibility of renewal. Listen to what it's saying. It is saying, from the point of view of politics, let me read this. The meaning is that in exceptional times, one does well to join with the lowly, for this affords a possibility of renewal. The oracle is telling you to join with those other individuals, to work with them, although they may be lowly in position, lowly in mind, maybe they're not very spiritually cultivated, but join with them. This will give a renewal, meaning that things will change, a revolution. Now, let's read the sixth line stressed, which is the top line. One must go through the water. It goes over one's head. Misfortune, but no blame. Here is a situation. in which the unusual has reached a climax. One is courageous and wishes to accomplish one's task no matter what happens. This leads into danger. But one incurs no blame in giving up one's life that the good and the right may prevail. There are things that are more important than life. The oracle is telling you to go out there and preach the truth. You will be shunned. People will think you're crazy. People will think you're weird. People will act violent toward you. They may try to kill you. But the oracle is saying you are in the right. And although living truth and preaching this truth may cost you your life, there are more important things than life. Holy shit. Holy shit. Changing now to the 33rd hexagram. The 33rd hexagram says retreat, but not just retreat, but a retreat in a very friendly manner. That means is when you face ridicule, when you face condemnation, politely retreat from the situation. Do you understand? We're in a battle, my Magi's, a battle for the hearts and minds, the people of the planet, to bring them the truth of who they are. And to answer your question, the government, how are we going to stop them? We stop them using the principle of Ma'at, the principle of the 100 monkey principle. When the majority of the population on this planet starts thinking in a certain way, that energy vibration will spread like a virus and it will change the hearts and minds of the people. We don't have to get into a physical altercation with them. We don't have to do a coup d'etat. All we need to do is to indoctrinate as many people into this way of thinking, the spiritual way of thinking. And then they'll get to a point where it'll get to the tipping point where the energy will spread and people will start thinking differently and the planet will shift to a new planet. A renewal will happen. Thank you, Magi, for joining me and experiencing this with me. Your work is clear. Go out there, start proselytizing, start preaching the truth. The world has to change. It's on the wrong path. You can be at the forefront of that change if you so choose to. This is Gasak Ma Keperu, son of Ma'at and Tuli. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, Amun Ra.